Well, good afternoon. We have made it to 12:30 on Monday, and so we're going to do a morning cheer broadcast, and this is a very special occasion because we're kind of doing a little bit of a cross promotion. If you've been watching some of these things online, you know potentially that on Thursdays on these same channels, both YouTube and Facebook, my good friend Andrea has been doing middays with Andrea and bringing some of our women's ministry to life and to your homes through this online portal. And so I'm actually going to invite her and a few other people as my guests to talk about a new and exciting program that Sandy Cove is starting and launching into in the fall. But it is a beautiful, sunny, kind of hot, still summer here day at Sandy Cove. We're enjoying the property. We're still selling power boosts, which again, that's kind of the hotel with amenities inside of the COVID safe way that we can do things right now. People are enjoying that. Had a great conversation with an old friend who used to work here, who came back and brought his family, and they're enjoying what the property has to offer. And then also we have some groups who are still meeting and doing things in our lineup for the fall programming. We're still kind of watching event by event to see how things are going to come together. And right now in the state of Maryland, all the stats are good and in the right direction. And so we are continuing to navigate in a very safe and cautious way to care for you should you choose to be on property with us again. So we look forward to going ahead and inviting as many people on property as we can safely have and experiencing the mission and vision of Sandy Cove while you're here, but also giving you the opportunity through these type of situations to experience a little bit of what you might be missing if you're in a situation where you can't get here or it's just not safe for you to experience this. So want to go ahead and bring in my friends to talk, and I'll let them introduce themselves a little bit about what we're going to talk about. But as I told you, my good friend Andrea is going to join us, as well as Bob and Nancy Moore. And Andrea works on our team here, on our program team. And so she's usually on the platform and hosting most of our women's events. And then Bob, I know very closely because he serves as a volunteer as one of our board members here at Sandy Cove. And so I've had the privilege of meeting and being a part of his story in certain different ways as he serves the ministry as a board member. And his lovely wife, Nancy, is with us as well. And I've had the joy and privilege of walking around along them and their families. They've been family campers for a very long time, and I'm sure they'll get to share a little bit of their Sandy Cove story as it relates to why they're connected and on the call with us here. But Andrea came to me and said, hey, why don't we do one of those mashup things? You know, like you watch NBC, they've got Chicago PD and Chicago Med and Chicago Fire and Chicago Town Hall and Chicago everything. She goes, why don't we'll do this thing. But it won't be midday with Andrea, but it'll be morning cheer Mondays. But we'll talk about this really new and exciting thing that we're doing inside of the fall. And so I wanted to go ahead and ask Andrea to kind of tell us a little bit of kind of the origin story and the heart behind this new event that we're piloting for caregivers. So could you just tell us a little bit of how this got onto your radar?
Definitely. Over the past couple of years, certainly many caretakers, professional as well as those caring for in-home family members, have asked me to develop something for a time of respite for them. And so as I often do when people give me ideas, I put it on a certain side of my desk and allow for the Lord to just bubble it back up into my spirit at the appropriate time. And certainly during these moments of COVID, we understand that so many people are not only experiencing their in-home care, but it's been heightened what they've been doing, and there's been a heightened need for them to get away and have some respite. And so the Lord bubbled it up in my spirit as I waited for, and at the right time, put all the pieces together in order to create this caregivers semi-directed retreat. It is a program that is designed for professionals as well as in-home caretakers to give them a time of rest and respite, and also have some moments of gathering together.
Yeah, speak a little bit more to when you say a semi-directed retreat, I think about a semi-scripted show. So when you say a semi, what's the format? How does that get together that you'd say this is a semi-directed? And how does that differ from, let's say, if they were going to come to a women's weekend? That's a fully directed program that you're kind of accounting for the whole schedule. Speak a little bit to that uniqueness.
Yes, indeed. It's semi-directed in that we want to give you space to come and be on your own, but at the same time, we recognize the value of gathering together with others. So while it's not a full-fledged program 24/7 of things you must come to, there will be moments where we do gather together in order to talk about various aspects. There is a schedule where we will have a time of devotion, a communion service, and 2 brief also sessions where we'll be able to learn some things with each other. And also on the second day, there will be opportunities for you, and I'm speaking to those of you who are watching this, there will be opportunities for you to have some individual one-on-one prayer time with our facilitators.
So, Andrea, why Bob and Nancy? Tell a little bit of the story of how you all connected, and you can kind of maybe take over and ask some questions of Bob and Nancy as to where they fit and what roles they'll play as a part of this unique program.
Well, first, Bob and Nancy, I know, have a history in this area, and they'll speak to in just a few moments about their background and how they have walked alongside caregivers and others through a counseling perspective. And so they were brought to my attention from a previous email some years ago in a discussion, and it came back, and along those same times, 2 scripture references came to me. That caregiving is a ministry. We see this with Jesus, how he had to separate himself and took time away from ministry to pray and be by himself. And secondly, the understanding that others are needed in your journey of caregiving. And we see this with respect to Moses, who stood in arms with Joshua during his battle and during the time when he had to raise his hands to keep the battle going and he got fatigued. There was Aaron and Hur, who gave support, and the battle continued with success. And so these 2 persons, Nancy and Bob, who will be our facilitators, are those who are coming in order to be that Aaron and Hur for you. And so what I would like to ask is, on the agenda, we have, first off, learning to rest. And Bob and Nancy, I'll turn this over to Bob. If you could just give us a little bit of a background in terms of both of you, one after the other. Give us a little bit of a background about your counseling and why you 2 as facilitators would be adept at being able to shepherd us along in this whole ideal of caregiving.
Well, I guess I'll jump in. Nancy says I can't say my name in 10 minutes, so I'll have to be brief here. But she's going to talk for a minute when she tees it up here a little bit about some of how caring for aging parents. So we have experienced that. She did a little bit more on hand, face-to-face stuff. So she'll talk about that. And we were discussing it, and I was trying to think, well, why? What am I? What is it about me that would allow me to do this maybe better than somebody else? And I thought, well, I've been 25 years in the pastorate, and I pastored 3 aging churches, and that was a challenge because I had many more funerals than I had weddings, and it got so that we had a trailer when we went on vacation, and when there was a message from a parishioner, they knew where we were. There'd be a note on the trailer door. And it got so when we approached the trailer and the kids could see a note from a distance, they said, "Oh no, we're going to have to go home." So I think for 3 or 4 years, every vacation we had, either I left late, I had to leave in the middle, or we went back early because someone was critically ill or mainly for funerals. So I did a lot of that in that 25 years. And then the 21 years since then, um, and actually Nancy helped me point this one out. I thought, well, a counselor is kind of, I'm a professional caretaker, but I have probably about 45 people a week that I try to help them, support them, empathize with them, love them, listen to them, spend time with them. So that's a little bit about my background there. In fact, here's something interesting. You might note this statement. The most unselfish thing to do is to be selfish. Now, I mean selfish in terms of self-care. And so people, caregivers, just don't have time. I mean, every minute is taken. So we want to provide, I love the fact that this gives you some time to just sit by the bay, sit on an Adirondack chair, walk around, pray with us, spend time with us, and there will be some sessions together. I'm going to turn this to Nancy in a minute here. I was thinking in rest and relaxation, what Jesus says. He says, he talks about us being weary and heavy laden. And he tells us in Matthew 11:28, he will give us rest. And we're going to try to give you some rest over this weekend. When I say to clients sometimes rest, they go, oh, rest. So we're going to talk about 1, 4, and 5. 1, my most favorite intervention in 46 years. You'll have to come to the weekend to find out what it is. 5, relaxation exercises. And we're going to explain them, demonstrate them, practice them in session, and we're going to ask you to practice them in your room or when you're walking around the campus. So those are some things. Now I'll turn it over to Nancy.
Hi. I thought back over the years, and I spent about 20 years, roughly speaking, in working with students who were sent to the company I worked for as a tutor, and they were at-risk kids. They were teenagers with many mental health problems, many physical problems, many academic problems, and they really couldn't, many of them couldn't go to school with their peers for various reasons, that behaviors that were problematic and that. And so I sat with them for many, many years and worked with them, and some of them had severe mental health problems. And so I have had that experience, and I know the stress of that. It wasn't a home care situation, and it wasn't a 24/7 situation, but it certainly had its moments. And I look back on the times that we were caretakers of 4 aging parents. Again, lots of health problems. It certainly takes a village. I think we were fortunate in that we were not alone in these endeavors for the most part. Bob is an only child, but we had the care of a facility as well there. But I have experienced some funny times. The slippery mom full of soap in a bathtub who's had a stroke. They
would laugh like little girls.
It was funny actually.
Your mother. It was kind of funny.
So, but cutting toenails and styling hair, and the appreciation that comes from that, but then the equally hard times that comes and they come, and you don't know. There's no script for this, and there's a lot of stress. Thankfully, they've safely all made it to heaven with our care, and so we're beyond that stage, but we certainly understand that stage. I like to think of the illustration of the stewardess. When the airplane is preparing to take off, they do that safety demonstration. And they always tell you, if you're a parent of a young child or somebody that's in your care, put your own oxygen mask on first, or you're not going to be of any help to the person you're helping. And so this weekend is kind of like an oxygen mask for you, so that you can in turn have the strength and the stamina and the hope to go forward when things are tough. One of the other things that I think of in Bob's talking about the rest and relaxation, we recently had an opportunity to be in a group that was studying and reading John Mark Comer's book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And there are 4 spiritual disciplines: silence, solitude, Sabbath, and simplicity, that he talked about in that book. And I personally find it difficult. My mind is always going, and it's really hard for me to sit down and be quiet and just rest everything. And I'm learning to do that better, but I know as a caretaker, there's always that demand on the person that's in charge. And to learn to sit down and rest and exercise these disciplines is something we'd like to talk to you about and help you with, even as we're helping ourselves with those things. And so I highly recommend you come and join us.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think even in my life, whether it's caretaking or leadership, there's a lot of cross sections there to some skill sets and survival techniques. But it's big work to rest, because for many of us, it does not come naturally, right? And so, I can definitely relate as you're talking to this idea of like, when I get in my car to drive home at the end of a day, the engine's still running, and I've got kind of a 20-minute decompression chamber before I get home to kind of go like, okay, I need to show up as a dad and a husband, because they really don't care whether the balanced budgets or not, when I get to my house. But when you're in that role as a caregiver and you have those added dynamics of caring for a relative, caring for a parent, there are a lot of added dynamics that for many people, there's no off button. There is no 20-minute decompression chamber, because they're either in your home or you just don't get to turn it off. And so I think, learning the skills of how do you serve well, not from an empty cup, but how do you fill your own? I love that image. We use that a lot around here. We talk a lot about the idea of, the mask come down, you have to be healthy enough to be able to help someone else out. So I love that. Just recently, I was listening to a message that pointed out, you hear these stories throughout Scripture over and over, but there's always something nugget of wisdom, nuance in it that you miss. And someone pointed out in John 4, which many of us know, a woman at the well story there, it actually points out that in John 4, verse 6, I'm trying to see, I think it's ESV I'm in, it says, Jacob's well was there, so Jesus, wearied as he was from his journey, was sitting beside the well, and it was about the 6th hour. And one of the teachers pointed out this idea that I think many of us don't put Jesus as relatable on the journey of being tired. And yet there's a story here that explicitly says he was tired. He sat down because he was tired. And so there is this relatability, but then there's also this model that we get, right? That I think one of you pointed out that says Jesus put together a going away. He had his tribe, his people around him, his support system, and then from that place did ministry, right? And so those are some of the things I kind of was thinking about as you all were talking, that I think we've got a lot, Scripture has a lot to say about how to minister well, and it doesn't require you to burn yourself out. Andrea, speak a little bit maybe to kind of what the semi-guided, what's the balance of time that there will be some sessions together, sessions apart? What's the balance of that time, and what other elements are you excited about for this program?
Yes, indeed. The balance of the time is that our times together will be brief, no more than an hour in most of the sessions, because we do want to pay respect to the fact that you are coming here in order to have your own moments of respite, your own getting away time so that you can have silent time with the Lord. But certainly we understand the value of coming together. And another very critical area that we pay respect to, because you heard it mentioned a little bit here, you're going through a great deal of emotions. You're going through a great deal spiritually, physically, mentally, and there's some real emotions that you're going through. There may be some resentment, some anger, that is sort of putting the compression on your joy in the moment of caretaking. And these are very real and valid emotions. And oftentimes, those who are not caretakers cannot truly empathize with that. And so, this is an opportunity for you to be able to come and speak out to that. And so, another directed program time will speak to hearing our emotions. And Nancy or Bob, if you could speak briefly to that session that's going to be held about those emotions. In the safe environment that they will be able to articulate out loud.
Yeah, well, you're referring, Andrea, about Kubler-Ross talks about stages of grief, and so it's not like a multi-stage rocket that just keeps on going. There's denial, and there is bargaining. God, I'll be a missionary if you just help Aunt Susie get better or something. And anger. I know when the Lord took my son home, died in his sleep 2 years ago. I was angry. I was, Lord, I should be planning, he should be planning my funeral. I shouldn't be planning his. And sadness. And then eventually, hopefully, you're coming to, it's almost like the old radio station you had to dial in. You're coming to kind of radical, kind of acceptance, a place of acceptance. So we're going to try to help that. Emotions are the windows to the soul. Dobson's book, Emotions, Can You Trust Them? Obviously, people don't know much about them, but the black and white of life are the facts, and the color are the emotions. And so we're going to try to help you maybe kind of maybe identify what those emotions are. Uh, Basil van der Kolk, um, Scandinavian, says your body keeps the score. And so sometimes paying attention to your body helps you know what emotions are there. And emotions are layered. Anger is often a surface emotion. Under that could be sadness, fear, shame, many others. So we're going to just, in a relaxed way, give you some time to try to maybe connect with those emotions and give them to God and realize what God is saying to you through those emotions. It's kind of neat. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. Reflection, so reflecting. We run through life on the surface and we don't reflect on what's really going on. So that's one way. Nancy has another way that might help a little bit.
I particularly like to write and journal with some of my Bible study and my thoughts and my emotions, because it slows me down enough that I'm really thinking about it. And as I'm writing, more things come to me than perhaps would come to me if I wasn't slowed down. And the other advantage of that is you can go back and see where you have come when you experience growth. And it's sometimes helpful to look back and see what God's done when you aren't remembering as well as you should.
And Stephen, I think
Yeah.
one of the things that we're emphasizing here is all too often with caregivers, they feel guilty about having some of these very real emotions. And so we want to bring them here into a safe environment where they can understand that it's okay. And let's talk it out, and let's realize that we have models from the word, and we have encouragement here for you, that these are real emotions and the opportunity to speak among others. And someone mentioned about giving it over to the Lord. And that is actually one of the third gathering times that we're going to have. We are going to have a communion service. We know even pre-COVID, many folks were not able to get out to church. I know when my mom and her sisters who were alive, they would call her every week, and they would have communion over the phone. And so my mom, who just turned 93 years old, who really she and my sister, her husband, who were the genesis, really that put the bud to bringing this to life as caretakers for my mom. Understanding that communion time, having that official time, and we're also going to have what is called a dissolving service, where you will be able to, as the Lord puts things on your heart and you wish to give it over to Him, it's just a symbolic act of writing it on a piece of paper and putting it into the water where your paper will be actually dissolved away. So it's a very impactful time. And I also want to ask the question, what about this opportunity for one-on-one prayer moments? What is the benefit of that?
Nancy,
And
you can
Bob,
jump in there.
Yeah, it's interesting that if you sit with someone and have them pray very specifically for exactly what's going on for you, it's so helpful, because just hearing somebody ask for those things that are bothering you and that give you um, angst each day of your life is something that you hear, and it helps when you're hearing it. It helps when you remember it as you go back home and you're in a tough spot, and you can count on the fact that God is hearing and answering that prayer. So I think it's a really supportive kind of an activity in a number of different levels.
So Nancy and I will be available for 15-minute prayer sessions throughout the day on Saturday. Nobody, if you just want to sit and soak and enjoy the bay, hopefully we're not getting soaked with rain. You can do that. But if you feel like it, if you want to, we're going to be hanging, and so we'll let you know where we're hanging, and you just say, "Hey, could you pray with me?" And we would love to pray with you, and I'm sure there'll be room for either one of us to pray with anybody who wants prayer. And so sometimes it's good. That's another way of releasing and giving it to God, and we'd be happy to give it to you. And it would send Nancy and me home with a prayer list, which would be cool. We could pray for you. When I've been involved with Every Man's Battle workshops as a counselor, often the men who were in the workshop developed a text chain, so they were connected by text. So if somebody had a hard time, they'd put it on the text, and then everybody could pray for them. And then people were praying, I'm praying, and it's been really neat. I'm in a men's accountability group now too, and that we do that. We have a text connection. So our dream is that this would be the beginning of giving you support, and that you'd have some sustained support. And I'm kind of a marriage seminar junkie, and I went to a lot of marriage seminars. We're going to have another one. The plan is one in September. We have one in October. I mean, we could have a graduate level if you want to come back again, and that time you get to rest even more. You rest more if you're a graduate. You can sleep the whole time. No, so we want to provide some ongoing support for you, because we know you men and women are just really spent. And I know what it's like to be spent. And we want to be there with you and help you get to a place of not spiritual emptiness, but more spiritual filling. So many things in life. I say, Paul Meyer, psychologist Paul Meyer of years ago, used to say, there are draining people in our life, and some of them are jerks. And so, it's a great psychological term. You just call them jerks. But others are needy people. And needy people don't mean to be draining us, but needy people drain us. And so if you don't have a wonderful relationship where God wants to know you and help you and be with you, and you have casual friends and soulmates who can come alongside you and support you, there's even good neuroscience about that. The mirror neurons in each other's brains will connect. Dan Siegel says we have mind sight, which is the ability to be empathetic. And so it's exciting. Again, we want to try to, I'm going to bring a little bit of neuroscience, and you'll all be scientists when you leave this weekend. Yeah, a little bit of that into what we do, because neuroscience is really part of Christian therapy more and more. So, and we'd love you to benefit from it.
You know, Bob, that reminds me of a story, short story. A very good friend of mine just buried her mom within the last year, and she was primary caretaker. And she said to me one day, you know, I asked her how she was doing, and she says, you know, I really don't like my mom very much right now. And you know, you can imagine saying that to somebody casually in your church, and what kind of a response that might bring. But sometimes you need to express those things when that's your truth right then, and you need to get it out, and you need to get rid of it, and you need to go back to what you know you're supposed to be doing, and with a better outlook on it. And so we've heard many things, and you will not shock us in any way.
The Mills Brothers years ago had a song, "You only hurt the one you love, the one you shouldn't have hurt at all." And there's a reason why. That is because you're the person they can empathize with, and you won't reject them. So they will dump. They're upset with where they are in life and the pain they're feeling, and things just aren't right. But who do you complain to? Do you complain to God? Actually, that would be a good thing. Do you complain to other people? That doesn't do any good. So they'll turn to the caregiver, and they'll lean heavily on you as a caregiver because they know you won't reject them. And so it's really hard to be in that position, to have someone you love yelling at you and screaming at you, but you have to kind of realize it's upset with life and with the stage we are and the pain I'm facing, all that stuff, and God will help you. That'll help you take it better.
That's great advice. I think that in situations like this, it was mentioned in that last segment there that oftentimes the caregivers are the last ones to kind of look out for themselves and the last ones to take time for themselves. And so the idea, and I know a little bit, even just from the nuts and bolts of how Andrea and our team has put this together, was, you know, if we put something like this out there, will anyone actually come? Because we're asking an audience that would never put themselves first to put themselves first and say, hey, I'm going to go and do that thing. And it's a Herculean task that goes, yeah, for these 2.5 days, someone else has to be the on call. Somebody else has to be. And so I would just encourage anyone here who's watching, if you don't find yourself in a season of caregiving, but you know someone who is, there is nothing you could do that could be a greater gift than not only to point them in the direction of this event, but potentially start to sow the seed of how will you care for the caregiver so that they can participate in something like this. Andrea, speak a little bit to, nuts and bolts. When are these events going to happen? How do you find out more about it? I'll actually put up, if my fingers are fast enough while you're talking, I'll put up the website here, and you can talk a little bit about dates and things like that.
Yes, we have 2 scheduled dates because we recognize we want to give some variety for when people can come. September 11th through 13th, as well as October 23 through 25. These you can find on our website. You can go online to sandycove.org. There you have it up there, the Caregivers Retreat. So we do have 2 opportunities for you. And as someone said, if you want to come and be a graduate of the second, spend some more time away, that's good as well. And I thank you, Stephen, for pointing out and encouraging those who are not caregivers to please come alongside someone that you do know who is a caregiver. Often it is very hard for them to ask for help. And this would be an opportunity for us to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to be God's tangible touch to them, and asking them if you and others could come around them, similar to the way that Aaron and Hur did to Moses, and be there. Perhaps there are church members who would be able to cycle throughout the weekend. We understand that sometimes it is a question of not sure if others are capable of being there, but we want others who are, and you know that you can, to please walk alongside those who are caregivers and be able to give them the margin to be able to get away.
Excellent. One of the things that we say here at Sandy Cove is sometimes the most powerful two words are the words "me too." And I think this opportunity for those to gather around inside of a community where you can let your shoulders down, you can share, you can be vulnerable and honest, and recognize that more than likely the person sitting across from you will utter those words. Me too. I've struggled with that. I'm living that. And there is, especially in light of COVID, it's made it amplified that we are all been ushered into a situation that we didn't want, and we're all dealing with things that aren't going the way we thought they would. I don't know if I'd be surprised if anybody on our panel today assumed we would be doing this the way that we're doing this today, or that any of our lives would look like they do. And so we're all in that spot, and so there is this power that happens when you can gather together, spend time in the Word, spend time alone, and then gather together, be honest, take care of your own soul, and then be able to speak into someone else's journey as a caregiver in a different category. So I'm very excited. I'm very grateful for Bob and Nancy coming alongside of our team here to put this thing together and get this out on the shelf. For us, the challenge is we need to get the word out. We need the people who need this to be here. And so if you're watching this and you go like, that's not my story, but I know someone, please send them this video, send them the link to the website so we can get these people here and care for them, and we can see what God wants to do inside of these times. Final words from the panel, Andrea, Nancy, or Bob, anything that we're going to cover that I missed in my script?
I think you did a great job. I'm looking forward to it. I hope that people will come ready, and even people who are trying to help caregivers, even to understand. Even there's something called secondary PTSD. So maybe it's not you're the one, but you're next to someone. Maybe you could be help hold up their arms. So we hope you'll seriously consider coming.
Amen.
All right. Well, head to the website. That's how you can find out information. You can call in anything that you need there as well. I want to thank Andrea, Nancy, and Bob for joining me, and we're going to go ahead and sign off today. And thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. God bless.
God bless.